deal. You're going to hit a wall. This drill in competition, it's not about you versus somebody else or the team or anything else. It's literally you versus you. You're going to hit a wall. And you'd rather hit the wall early. Don't wait. Don't save it. Hit the wall and go right past it. Don't try to dodge the wall. Know it's coming and go sprint right through it. And
this is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great, they're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching. All right, welcome back to the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm going to jump right into it. My guest today, really excited to have him on. His name is Ryan Clanton. He is the offensive line coach for the Iowa State Cyclones. Great dude, young guy, super energetic, great interview. I'm going to jump right in, and I'll talk to you about it on the other side, but let's get into the interview. How you doing, Coach?
doing good.
I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah. No, I'm excited too, for sure.
Yeah, give me a little bit about, I always like to start with a little credibility. Talk to me about you growing up playing, becoming, a little bit of your journey becoming an offensive line coach.
Yeah, I mean, for me, coaching is more fulfilling than playing even was. I think that when you can, develop players and even mindset like we're talking about and get them to play, the way that you're wanting them to play, and then you see that production on the field, that's just like the ultimate reward. But for me, I didn't really play football very much growing up, and then really started my junior year of high school, and then that took off and I loved it, and I had the opportunity to go to junior college in California, and it wasn't exactly glamorous, but I learned a lot, met a lot of great people, and developed my mindset there of really having that dog mentality, and to make it out of where I was. We were living in a garage for a majority of the time, and really just had to outwork everybody, and ended up going on and playing in Oregon and became a team captain, and played a lot of positions on the O-line just because I had to learn or be, I had to create value and opportunity for myself. And then after that, really just I started out coaching high school football, and coached high school football, junior college football, and then FCS football, and now at Iowa State. So it's really just kind of come full circle. So it's been a pretty cool journey.
So you talk about it feels like there's you gave me the Cliff Notes version. Is that still a thing, Cliff Notes? They probably call it something else now. But anyway,
It
you
wasn't
gave
when I was
me
in college. Yeah.
right. I don't know what it is now. You just Google everything. That's I'm showing my age here, Coach. But like, you're the second offensive lineman I've talked to recently that went on to play that didn't even start till junior year of high school. So like, you just one day at home, you're like, I'm not playing football, and then all of a sudden you just are, and you're good enough to eventually play at Oregon.
Yeah, maybe I should take that back. I sparingly played as a young player. Like I think I was playing like flag football when I was in junior high. I don't really remember. And then I played like youth football a couple of years, and then I was just I was the worst. Even as a freshman, I didn't even play. I didn't play as a sophomore, but as a freshman, I didn't even come close to the field even at the end of the games. So I think I was just out there just hanging out. So yeah, it was like I didn't. They really didn't have a spot for me on the team, really. So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of just fell in love with it later in life, but that helped, not be burnt out, I guess, and I was just kind of starting to understand the game and offensive line play. And, you got to be a different type of person to play offensive line. It's not very glamorous. And you almost have to find joy in things that other people might find boring. And I think that's the challenge and the cool thing as a coach is that you can continually find ways to make the things that are kind of monotonous fun and challenging. And that's really what keeps because we're not catching the ball, we're not scoring touchdowns or anything, sacks, So if you get your name called, it's probably a really bad thing. So you just got to find ways to, build that level of fun. That way, even the guys that have been playing their whole life, they still really enjoy it and they find there's new life to the game.
Yeah, so it's not surprising then that you came in and you really didn't start getting a lot of playtime till junior year, then senior year. And as you mentioned to me, it's not surprising that you weren't heavily recruited then.
Yeah,
Which is
no, there was
how it was just probably how you end up in a garage at a JUCO in California, right?
Yeah, no, and it was, at that time really with like I didn't even really know how to like put together a highlight tape or any of that stuff. I remember me and my dad went to I think it was like one of his friends that would like burn DVDs of highlight tapes and we just put it together and it was just like but it was kind of like, you know, it's hard to explain, I guess, like where I'm from in Bakersfield, California, it is a heavily populated area, but it's also pretty under recruited. Still is. I mean, there's some amazing players that are from Bakersfield. If you even just looked at an NFL roster, there's a lot of guys from that area. But it was under recruited in my opinion at the time, and so you just gotta. I mean, there's other places in California to go recruit that are closer that have probably a lot better players, but Bakersfield usually puts out some tough kids that are kind of old school slash. I mean, they're just hardworking kids. So
Yeah, I mean the only thing I know from Bakersfield is that, I like the Bakersfield sound, little country music. I like that stuff. But yeah, you
yeah,
don't it's not a
yeah,
yeah,
Buck
it's not
Owens
a
and
yeah,
yeah,
all that stuff. Little Dwight Yoakam, that whole sound, it's good
yeah.
stuff. But like you said, it's not where college coaches are going to look for football players necessarily.
No, not really, but it's kind of interesting that you'll see a lot of guys that you've grew up with or played against, and or even just in training facilities, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that guy was from here, and so it's a small town feel, but at the same time, pretty widely recognized, and the football has definitely taken off since I was in high school there.
Well, and I think that I'm getting from you, it's a little bit of a gritty area too, right? And I
Yeah,
think that there's like we always, I talk to a lot of parents and stuff, and they're trying to do their best for their kid, and I get that. I got kids too, and all that, but sometimes struggling and not having everything and having to grit a little bit is the absolute best thing for a kid.
Yeah. I agree.
In the long run anyway, if you can make it out anyway.
Yeah, no, and I, talk kind of relating back to mindset a little bit. Like, I think being grateful, and when you're grateful and appreciative, and I feel like in this world, in referencing like football, everybody wants more, but there's something about when you're grateful and you're just happy to be there, and that's like, I mean, even just in coaching, everybody's like looking for their next opportunities, and it's like, man, you got to put your head down and do work where you're at, and be grateful that you're there. Like every day, you should sprint to the facility, and that's kind of like my mindset. It's always been that, just because I had zero chances of playing at this level, so it was kind of that's kind of something I carried with me, still to this day.
Yeah, so you got to be, you're living in a garage and playing JUCO ball. When you finally do start to get them offers, I'm sure that was, I mean, it's like Christmas, right?
Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, it's really like everything that you work for coming to fruition, and then it's something that I never thought was possible for myself, with the limited experience, but and then at the same time, it was, okay, now you've got this opportunity. You better make the right choice, and you better go there and be productive, and that was what I was telling myself. So that was kind of like the next, it was like a short-lived, it was almost like fun. And then it was like, okay, next challenge, and like, it just never stopped. It was just like on to the next.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like you said, you got to be grateful and excited about it, but then it's also, you got to flip a switch and be like, oh, I got work to do now. Because again, I'm sure it's not like, I'm sure you didn't just come from JUCO college to getting right on the field at Oregon either and have to start. You didn't start right away. I mean, it's in a whole other grind.
Yeah, I redshirted. I was like, and I was an older player, so I looked at it as an opportunity that they wanted to invest in me. When my coach told me that I was going to redshirt, I had an amazing college coach, Steve Greatwood, and he really bred like toughness into us as players. And when he told me that I was going to redshirt, I think a lot of people would have looked at that and been like, "Oh man, but you're a transfer, and you should have been already." But I was just like, man, at least they want me here for another year, And so then I was like, sweet, gives me time to learn the plays and keep rolling. And so I tried to use that time because, that's like the one thing, that's something that I talk to my players a lot about, is like, we all have, especially in college athletics, like, time is what everyone has. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everyone's doing the off-season workouts and the spring ball, and it's like everything is really the same at this level. So, like, what are you doing with your time to gain that extra inch or that extra 1% to 2% that other people aren't doing? And the weekends and breaks, and like, how can you find a way to gain that advantage on the players across the nation? Because no matter who was on this show today, if any other Power 4 college coach, they're going to tell you the same thing, that it's like all about being productive with your time. And it's really not about how much I know, it's about how much they know. And so how can I teach that to them and them be them productive? And that's kind of like every day when I wake up, the first thing I think about is like, how can I affect and help those guys today? And again, it's like not about me. It has to be about them. And if it's about me, then we're going to have a bad year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about time with the NCAA, the regular, like you guys, like you could map out your entire year of like how many minutes you have with the guys, right? Like it's so well dictated. It becomes, when you're here, when we're working, we are being as urgent and as efficient as possible. Like there's no, there's no messing around.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that, I learned a lot from playing for Chip Kelly at Oregon, and he really kind of had that high tempo. We had the high tempo offense at the time that I was lucky enough to be a part of, but he also, if you really think about that offense and no wasted time or movement, you know, then maximizing the plays. And he also ran the schedule like that. So you really were, even individual drills. I mean, it was, 4 or 5 people up at a time. Hey, we'll correct that on film later when that's the time to correct that on film, unless it was a complete, utter failure. But I thought that taught me a lot, learning how to coach. And there's lots of different styles, but like, I've never coached a quarterback before. I would assume that you have time with that one guy, with 3 guys watching you. But with an offensive line, like you really have to streamline. And the one thing that I would say is, from a development standpoint and from a mindset standpoint, this actually ties in pretty well, is like the other 5 guys, especially like your older guys, they almost have to be coaches for you. And you have to like get that in their head early, because, to truly like master a subject is when you can teach it. And if they can teach that to someone else, then I know that they're working on it mentally and they're not just like BSing in the background, like they're actually gaining something. And that's kind of cool. Plus it creates ownership and like in your craft.
Absolutely.
So
it's huge, right? It's got to help the whole thing. If you're not doing that, you're really missing a big opportunity. So when you're talking about that streamlined efficiency and stuff, how much of a change is that for you and for kids coming in that are coming from either high school or JUCO? Because it's got to feel like overwhelming at first for them.
Yeah, I think it is. And I do try to like almost separate those guys a hair and teach them at a different pace. That way they fully grasp the concept. And, like the philosophy of like whole part whole and learning, like I try to give it to them like whole and then part like quickly if they had like a question. Or sometimes like where I think we fail as coaches is like we don't really like communicate very well with the players. So with guys from any age that I'm coaching, I'll constantly ask them, for their opinion or their answer, about, say, a play. And then when they say the wrong answer, which is frequent, I'm not just like, no, you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Hey, what made you say that? Like, I want to figure out where that thought came from, because sometimes if you just simply ask them that, then you find out that they had 2 different things confused, and it's a quick, you untie that knot fast, and then they're good, and so that's kind of where I try to like slow it down a hair, but also kind of get into their head a little bit, and that helps.
Well, I think. And I think when you do it that way, you take a little bit of the emotion out of it. And the second we get some emotion in it, then it's you can't really judge. You can't really judge what they say next, because it's emotion filled, and they're trying to figure out what you want to hear rather than what they're actually thinking. And so I'm with you. Like the more, I agree that if a coach can be calm and ask those questions, you get better, more useful answers that you can use as a coach, rather than, like I said, just hammer them, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And I didn't bring this up, but I worked in the oil business the whole time I was coaching for Halliburton and then a division of DuPont called InnoSpec. And I actually got to help them start the West Coast division at a young age at 25. And, I had a great boss, and he played college football. He played at Oklahoma State. And he was a quarterback, and like we could communicate really well, and I could ask him, or I could say I did something wrong with like a BOL or something in transportation with oil field, which is disastrous because it's hazardous material. And like I could ask him like honestly, or he would tell me like, you can't do that, and this is why. But like, what made you do that? And I would just say, man, I thought it was this. Okay, hey, that's hazardous materials. You have to, these are the steps you have to take. So like, even just learning that and getting that from that different area of life, like that helped me a lot in just like learning and teaching, because there's nothing scarier than starting a business like that on the West Coast by yourself. It was literally me and a warehouse and a forklift and a truck, and it was like, here we go,
I mean, a lot of opportunities to screw up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The nearest person to me was in Colorado. So it was like I was on an island, and
Yeah.
so that, learning through that actually helped me a lot.
I think that's a great point, and I think that coaches need to figure that out, that like how you coach, or this guy was your boss, how you coach and how you boss, right? That becomes that next generation of people in line, how they do it, right? Or at least how they start to do it. Because I know a lot of coaches that coach were coached terribly, and then when they start coaching, that's how they do it, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you're so influent, you have so much influence on the people under you, not just in how they're learning that, but how they're going to move on to lead others. And so like when you're talking about your upperclassmen coaching your others, they're taking notes from you on how to do that, which is I don't know. That to me, that's what coaching is, or what it should be.
Yeah. No, I agree. And really like just for them to have the mindset of like, the best word, because I've been really thinking of like how to sum this up, and like the best word I can think of is like the mindset of like ownership. Like, this is ours. This is what we do. This is the standard. And I'm going to teach that to you. And then through them teaching that to the young guys, if they're out and breaking the standard out at all times of night on the weekends or whatever else, or they're not taking supplements or they're eating wrong, then they're breaking their own standard. And then for me, it's like, we don't really have that issue here anymore, but like that's like the day one expectation is like, I'm going to coach you, my GA is going to coach you. He's a coach, and I'm going to coach you in multiple phases of life, not just like I was giving real estate advice to one of our players today, like trying to buy his first house, weave this into as many ways as I can, right, wrong, or indifferent. And like, that's just kind of the way that I've done it, and it works.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. Yeah, I love when you're talking about ownership, and it made me trigger. Maybe you've probably read it, but you haven't. The stuff with Jocko Willink and his extreme ownership.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about, because his idea of ownership is that it's not always top down, it's bottom up, and every level connecting with every other level and owning their spot and owning the whole thing. And I love to see it. I love to see great ideas like that implemented into what you're talking about there. That's awesome. I love it. So
yeah. No, I'm a big audiobook guy, not a big reader. So I have listened to that book.
Hey, no, it's good. It's good stuff. Well, I mean, hey, reading it, listening
I'm a
it,
podcast guy.
Well, there you go. You get a lot of stuff. So, yeah. But if you've listened to it, there you go. So one of the things that I'm interested in is, you're at a JUCO in California, and you get noticed and you get picked up by Oregon. That's a huge step up, right? There's probably a lot of guys in that garage with you or on that team with you that didn't get those offers and didn't make it out of that opportunity and didn't get that opportunity. And then now as an offensive line coach, you're recruiting, right? What did they find in you? What did they see in you? What do you see in others Because for you, it wasn't necessarily, you didn't have a lot of game time, right? You'd only been playing for 4 years or so. There had to be something they saw. Like, what do you look for? What did they see in you?
Yeah, there's probably going to be some listeners that'll look up my highlight tape, and just for reference, it's not very good. So I know that. You don't have to tell me that. So I know that. But what I was good at is I was like a relentless player, and I'm like 6'4", and so what I was more of a technician. And I had to be a technician because I didn't have elite length or size. And then naturally, I was like a pretty strong player. So then I was like, man, I just got to focus on my strength. And I tried to be the strongest person at every team I played for. And that was like the only way I could. I really lived by the 15-minute rule. So like after everyone left the weight room, 15 minutes later, or I would lift twice a day, to be honest with you. And it just is what it is. I had to do that because I wasn't genetically as gifted as my teammates. So, and that worked well for me with proper supplementation and nutrition. And then honestly, like kind of what I was talking about earlier about like, what are you doing on your breaks? That's where I was skyrocketing past people because they would go on break and they wouldn't train, they wouldn't eat right. They wouldn't take protein, they wouldn't take whatever, creatine. And I was like religious with it. It never stopped. I almost got better even when I went on break. It wasn't like the most fun, glamorous breaks, but at the same time, like I would do it. If I did it all over again, I would just do the same thing,
Yeah.
And I had the right mindset going in, and I was there to play. And that was like my end goal. I was never to play in the NFL or any of that. Like I just wanted to play in college football because it was like, I never thought that far ahead. I just thought about the next obstacle. And so that was kind of like my mentality.
No, I think so. It's such a great idea as people always have the big goals, and you got to have goals. You got to have things, but people focus on, you got kids coming into Iowa State as freshmen. They're like, oh, I'm going to play in the NFL. I'm like, buddy, we need to work on A, B, and C before we get to X, Y, Z. Right. And I think, and kids forget that. I love the idea because you're saying these things like, oh, when we went on break, I just kept working. And some kid might be listening to this and taking notes. Okay, keep at it. Don't keep at it. And it sounds easy, but that's the hard part is because you're doing it. It's doing it without the accountability. That's hard, right? When you're there and you got somebody like you telling you to work, it's easy. When you're gone or everybody's gone and they're work and you're staying and working or eating and doing everything's right, that's the hard part is having your own accountability. Like to me, that's the difference I see.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it always helps when you surround yourself with people that have the same goals and aspirations that you do. And that's really where I found great people around me that I gravitated towards. And, we all had the same mindset and mentality. And that's kind of like, that's what saved me personally was I had that in junior college with my best friend, James Tate Peterson. And then I had that at Oregon with 10 to 20 guys that were the same way. And I had that coaching all the way up. And so that kind of like helped me, that support system, even from a distance. Because I really learned like when I was getting recruited, it was like me. And then when I was there, it was like, okay, now I got to not only make myself better, but I got to bring everybody else up with me. And that's what like led me to be a team captain, was leading by example. And the thing that people don't tell you is leadership's lonely. It's lonely as hell. I mean, you know what I mean? Like if you are going to like go home on break and, but you say that you want to be an All-American, you want to be great, like friends are going to pull you in directions to do things and you're going to have to just sit there and be like, I can't do that. Sorry. It's like, it is what it is. It's lonely and you end up kind of being boring to be around. But then, once you hit that milestone or that goal that you set, like it's infectious. So.
Yeah, it's funny though. You talk about that and you're like, it's kind of formulating a question in mind, like a recruiting question for a kid is like, how often are you the only one in the gym? right? And if they can't come up with the time that they're the only one at it, you're like, okay, are they really the guy? Because that's like you said, how often were you in the gym? You're the only one there. You're the only one doing it. I mean, that's like you're talking about moving ahead of others. That's what it takes, right?
Yeah. No, it is like that. And then really like as you kind of grow and you get older, even through the process, it transitions like into all aspects of life and your work. And that's kind of what I've noticed is like the skills that you're building as a young individual. It's like that's like the trajectory that you're going to be on as an adult, and like I'm not perfect. I never was, not even close, but I've learned from all my mistakes and I've tried to grow and, not allow, my mistakes to happen twice. And even to the guys I'm coaching, like, so then it kind of helps me even as a person at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So it's still like leading by example. It's still, and that's kind of like, for me, that's the big thing. It's like what I'm called to do is to like help, young people achieve their goals. And like I said, there's really nothing like for the people listening that don't know football, like if you're running duo and the guard and the tackle double team the three technique into the linebacker and run him over and the running back runs, I don't care if the running back runs for 5 yards, but like if they use the footwork that you taught them and they have the same mindset and velocity off the ball that you preach every day and they're sprinting through somebody's face, like there's no better feeling than that because it's like, like it's almost like you and them know, like, man, you did it. It worked. And the kid's like, it worked. And you're like, sweet. Like that's like the high of highs for me. That's like the top ceiling. So.
Yeah. And you can see that with coaches, like you can always see a play that's not a big play, but you'll see a coach like just ecstatic on the sidelines. And occasionally it's funny because you're like, why is he so excited? Well, it's little things like that, right? It might be just maybe they just got 3 yards, but they did it in a different way, in a way that they couldn't do before, and that's the fun part, right? Is seeing that progress.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's talk mental toughness. And you talked about how, like, you told me that coaching is basically that's what it is developing that mental toughness. I'm curious. I'm in the business of mental toughness. I'm trying to help athletes do it and work with coaches and stuff like that. And I still feel like there's a little bit of, I don't know what the word is. I'm not sure that everybody believes that it's something that can be developed. I think that there's still people that feel like, well, a kid's either tough or they're not. But I'm getting from you that no, it's something that we develop and we create. And I'm just curious how you do that and how you focus on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So like an example, we have like off-season mat drills and they're hard on purpose. And I've got a group that's a mix between skilled players, linemen, everybody, just like my group. And I talked to them before we did the first mat drill. And I told them, I just said, look, here's the deal. You're going to hit a wall. This drill in competition, it's not about you versus somebody else or the team or anything else. It's literally you versus you. You're going to hit a wall. You'd rather hit the wall early. Don't wait. Don't save it. Hit the wall and go right past it. Don't try to dodge the wall. Know it's coming and like go sprint right through it. And, like if you get exhausted beyond belief, like we're not going to die out here. It's a game. We're fine. You're going to hit the wall and sprint through the wall. And if you need encouragement, look to me or to your teammates, and I feel like, and we won. We completely blew everybody out of the water. And I feel like it was not because of me, but like just because of like them, all those guys, I know they hit a wall and I know that they went right through it. And I didn't know when the wall was coming for each player. That's different. But like acknowledging hard and like knowing that hard's coming and being prepared for hard is probably the biggest thing in football. Like it's never gonna, like rarely does a kid come in and have 4 years of just amazing success. We have players that have come in and had early success and late failure. We've had the exact opposite. And you would think that like the normal progression is like, getting better, best. Like we're trying like the purpose of like mental toughness, in my opinion, like what we do, especially with offensive linemen, is like you're going to hit what you think is your best. But like I'm trying to take the ceiling and every year or every 4 times a year, every quarter, take your ceiling up and then hit the new ceiling. And that's, some of the great players I've coached, Trevor Penning, first rounder, Spencer Brown, third rounder, rookie starter, like those guys have set a new ceiling every year and they've blown past the wall. And that to me is like mental toughness, is like embracing hard and sprinting through it. And, developing that, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say that it's like, because most people would say like, well, how you do that then is that you just create these like crazy workouts and these things. Well, sometimes hard in football is like getting tired and then following instructions, like things like that. They're like small details that you then create hard. You then create the like me versus me mentality in my head of like, when am I going to give up? And I'm trying to like go away from that and go into like, how far can I push myself? And I think that is like the biggest, roadblock for me as a player. What I used to do, because I was a 340-pound guy that was playing in a tempo offense. I wasn't even supposed to be there. There was no way. I was like the sore thumb that stuck out. Like, all these other linemen were like, looked like these beautiful, tall, long, lean bodies. They all played in the NFL, and there's like me. It's just like super wide. And so I like every day when I would go out there, I always thought like, even on the hard days and 2-a-days and fall camp and stuff, I would always think like somebody out there in the world is having a worse time than I am, like, and that always helped me like, okay, like what you're doing, you're blessed to be here. This is a privilege. You signed up for this, and like, let's get after it, and it kind of got me away from that thought process of like, because it's like the angel and the devil, and then the devil's like, give up, and you're just like, no, dude, we're good. Like, I'm going to keep going. What's the worst? And that's kind of like to me.
What I love about what you said there is when you're talking about acknowledging things, like even when you're doing like acknowledging the devil or acknowledging that hard is coming, to me, that is vulnerability, right? And I think some of the old school coaching would be to never acknowledge that something, like never show them that you're hurt, never act like it's ever hurt or you ever did anything wrong. And I think that but the problem is then when you hit the wall, which you always will, then it feels like such a failure. But whenever you're being vulnerable and acknowledging from the start and say, hey, look, this is really hard on purpose. This is going to be hard. You're going to fail. That's okay. We expect you to fail, but we expect you to get up and keep moving forward after you fail. And I think to me, that is such a more mentally healthy environment for an athlete than, oh, you failed? Why'd you fail? Even there, they're going to fail. You design it to fail, but then you give them a hard time for failing. No, I love the vulnerability that you're creating there. And when you say you didn't have anything to do with your team winning that mat drill, but I'm telling you, you did, because of just by acknowledging and being vulnerable that, hey, this is going to be hard. You're going to hit a wall, but that's okay. Like, that's what mindset is stuff like that, is recognizing that, acknowledging that, and being like, that's okay. It's okay. We're just going to keep going. So I give you a huge kudos for that. That's a phenomenal answer. And I just love that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And the other thing, the sad thing is like what percentage of people actually even hit the wall or know what the wall is? You know what I mean? Like, that's really like, that's like, how hard can you work at something? Are you that like addicted to it that you'll just go and you won't stop until you hit a wall? And I try to hit the wall all the time. I try to hit the wall every day. Game planning short yardage against whoever, like I'm trying to hit a wall because I'm trying to exhaust every resource, look at every clip, every angle, past years where the defensive coordinator was at wherever. The best short yardage plays in the NFL. Like, I don't care where. Like, I'm trying to hit a wall, and like, that's like, I feel like sometimes, like you said, vulnerability, and then understand, like, you don't have all the answers. And it's like, oh, I got to go find that out. But yeah, I feel like until you're like real with yourself, and at least as an athlete or even in the work world, then it's like, you can't even get to that level of mental toughness because you're still guarding yourself from failure the whole time. You know what I mean? You're still like,
I do.
Well, I'm going to work really hard, but then like, what are they going to think of me? It's like, who cares? Like, hit a wall, see what they think. Like, and then you're the one getting promoted, or you're the one that's having success, and like that translates directly to college athletics because
it does.
These guys hit a wall fast because they got a full-time job, they got school, they got life, they got football. Like this ain't just going to practice. I mean, they got development meetings, they've got tutors, they've got sports psychology meetings, they've got, like, you name it, their schedule is full to the brim. So like they'll hit a wall eventually. You just got to see how they respond.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure it's a mental wall, it's a physical wall, it's an emotional wall. It's when these guys are, a lot of them coming in, they're 18. Well, some of them are coming in, 18 years old. So you probably get kids come in that aren't even 18 yet sometimes, and it's that just a huge change for them to be able to do that and just have to be locked in like that all the time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as you're talking about having to hit the wall and do that, it's why I know that you're trying to develop a lot of them, and you love it when your guys go to the NFL. But what percentage do that? It's a small percentage. But if they've spent their time with you hitting walls and getting past walls, man, I mean, they're going to be dynamite employees. They're going to be dynamite husbands. They're going to be great members of society because they've challenged themselves and they know what they're made of and how to move forward.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And that's like, that is like the definition of like mental toughness to me is that. And then really, like, as you kind of look forward even into the thought process of mental toughness, like getting players to get to that, I feel like as coaches, it's our responsibility to find situations that they're going to have to be mentally tough, and then understanding, like, even just like clear choices. Sometimes choices are like the easiest way to develop that early is like, you give them two options and you see where they naturally lean. You know what I mean? And you're kind of like, okay, well, we got a lot of work to do. Or it's like, okay, and honestly, in coaching, like 99% of the kids that we get already are mentally tough because we do like such a hard background check on them and what they're about. And transfers, same thing. And then it's like just making sure that they're spending the right time, or chasing the right things when they're gonna go hit a wall, because like it's easy to say, okay, I'm gonna work out till failure. And then it's like, okay, well then you better recover till failure too, because if you don't, then you're gonna be injured.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, or, even just like the thought process of lifting, I feel like coaching has become, because everyone has, I mean, I'm sitting in this building. This building is like the Death Star. I mean, it's a beautiful, huge building. And we've got so many people and they're all professionals in their field. But at the same time, like, I want to be like hands-on with those guys and take like a 365-day approach to development. And like, if you're reaching out to them when they're on a break and you are still kind of coaching them in a way, and finding ways to like navigate their schedule and even just like setting up schedules for them, and then them taking ownership in their half, like I feel like that's like a clear choice that you create, and then you kind of see where they're going to go. And that's been a big, way for me to set that up early and then kind of foster as you go. And then you get guys that are on a mission. Like we have Jalen Travis came in from Princeton for 1 year. He's in I'm going to go to the combine this Friday. And like he was on a mission. Like he lived like a pro, and it was for him. It was like, he was hurt at Princeton. He's extremely smart, graduated to the higher end of his class, and he's got an crazy resume that none of us will even come close to having. But like, he's very mentally tough, and he was making sure that he was hitting the wall on the right things. It was like, because like I guess that's another thing I should say is like the difference I would say in like good colleges and good college athletics is like once they physically hit a wall, you still have so much brain power that it doesn't require physical activity to kind of hit the next wall mentally. And that's what I think we do an elite job of, is like making sure that our guys, whether or not it's lifting weights, supplementation, nutrition, or really just like base football knowledge, just like teaching them things that maybe other offensive linemen wouldn't know. Coverages is big, that linemen usually don't learn coverage. Formations, I mean, things that you wouldn't think that they would need to know, but it really kind of puts it all in one big piece.
No, In 2020, my life changed forever. I survived cancer, a stroke, and the mental issues that came with that. And those challenges gave me new perspective on life and resilience. And that's why I created Mental Mettle Coaching, to share what I've learned and help others grow stronger. I work with athletes, coaches, and professionals who are ready for a challenge and ready to embrace growth. Whether you're striving for excellence on the field, inspiring your team, or looking to elevate your career, Mental Mettle Coaching offers individual coaching, group sessions, and workshops tailored to your needs. Your next chapter of growth starts now. Contact me today. Details are in the show notes, and let's forge your metal.
One big
Yeah.
piece.
No, I love that. I mean, I love how you're thinking about it from so many different angles and helping them make them just better, more well-rounded people. You talked about how most of your athletes are coming in are 99% are already mentally tough. That leads me to a question. And what is it when you're recruiting? Maybe this is a question for any kid that's listening to. What is the thing that matters that you notice, and what's the thing that they think matters that you do not care about?
I mean, I would say that, you know, across the board, guys make highlight tapes. Highlight tapes are almost like the foot in the door a little bit.
Yeah.
And then once you're like, okay, that's a great highlight tape. Like, let me see what the rest of your game tape and your game tape on your life is like, to see like what kind of person you are, because it might be different across, like there could be other coaches listening that are like, yeah, whatever. But like when you're coaching offensive linemen, like if you bring in one bad apple, you're going to spoil the whole bunch, you know? So like you have to be really, really careful about who you're bringing in, to even just their personalities. Like I've recruited players before based on them, you know, and like, okay, you know, you've got two people that are really almost the exact same. And then it's like, this guy fits really, really well with our guys that we have here. So like, not only is his college experience going to be better, but they're going to like him more, you know? So like, it's kind of like a full circle thing. It's more, I would say that's a big thing. Like there's so many like small things. And like, you look at people that play multiple sports, it's like, are you like out there just to, you know, hang out with the boys, or like, are you competing? You know,
Are you
like,
getting after it?
I don't really care if you're like any good at another sport. Like I wrestled in one time in high school and I was horrible, but like I tried, you know, like like we want to see like people compete and go after it, you know, and like that's another thing that we look for a lot. And that was really big for me at Northern Iowa, where I was coaching in the FCS, because you weren't getting you know, any of the stars or anything like that. Like, you know, Spencer and Trevor, those guys were both starting in the NFL, and they were both severely under recruited. They probably had 2 offers between the 2 of them. So partial offers. So like, you really have to go after like the human first, and then like the football stuff second. And like, I would say like the highlight tape is like what enters you into the conversation, if that's the best way to put it.
You know, it does. But it's still like, yeah, there's so much more beyond it. And I love you're talking about how they do everything. Like, because I think if you see a basketball player or playing, shot put for seeing how their preparation for that is important, because how you prepare for anything is how you prepare for everything. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, even in like the conditioning workouts and stuff, you've got guys that have never done it before, ever. They're transfers, they're new, they're young, they're early enrollees in high school. They should be still in high school. They don't know what the hell they're doing, but like when you watch them, they're either going to try to figure it out or they're going to let the devil on their shoulder be like, it's okay. It's your first time. Don't go hard. Don't make a scene. It's like, or we got guys that are like bleeding from the mouth, just trying to like do anything they can to win. And it's their first time doing it. And you're like, wow, that guy's a dog, that makes you feel good. So that, I feel like that evaluation piece is huge. It just goes way past just football. It has to, and like, and at Iowa State, this place is a true developmental program, and some of the best athletes that have come from here, which are a lot of the NFL greats currently, they've all been like that, developmental guys, maybe late takes, under recruited. And they've developed at a high rate. And I think that's like the art of the word coaching, and like that's what we're about. And that's really why Coach Campbell brought me here, is just the development piece, and like, so I'm nowhere near a complete coach, but I'm going to work my ass off and just keep trying, like.
Absolutely. Well, that's coaching. It's not winning and losing. You want to win. You hate losing, but it's about getting the best out of the guys that you have and getting the most out of yourself. And that's how you feel good about stuff, right? That's like we've been talking about that. We haven't talked about wins at all, right? It's you're talking about them getting a block right for 3 yards. That's what we're excited about. Like if that ends up helping them win, great. But you got to get that.
That's true.
Yeah. So about out of time here, Coach. What did I not ask you that I should have? What did I, in this discussion of mental toughness, whatever? What did I? You're the expert here. What did I miss?
Man, I'm just some thoughts, I guess, that I can think of, off the top of my head. Like for me, I would say that being mentally tough it's a progression. It's never. Because, like, I guess, and when you asked that earlier, you were like, everybody is already tough and you can't really develop tough. Like, physical toughness, there's a difference between being, like, hurt and being, like, injury. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between, like, soreness and broken bones, right? Like, everybody thinks of, like, toughness in that physical way. But a lot of the times, like, your response to your injuries mentally is, even just how you attack rehab is the biggest thing. And that's where I look at guys that are mentally tough, people that have been through hard and how they've gotten through hard, and, that's a big thing for me. Even looking at like coaches that I like want to coach with or be around, it's like, man, what are some hard things that you've been through and like, how did you get through it? Because, those are the type of people like Coach Campbell. He says all the time, like, I don't really care like about who I'm going to win with. I want to figure out who I can lose with, and, like, that's like the truth. Like, especially in this business, as coaches, because everybody wants to be like, it's his fault. It's like,
oh, absolutely.
But like, for me, like that piece of toughness, like everything that we do in college athletics, especially in football for sure, is developing mentally tough humans that know how to handle hard, that can go right into the eye of the storm and that can acknowledge that the storm is coming and they're not going to run from it. Like they know it's coming, and that's really like the hardest thing is like the choices that you have to make at this level to play football. You're going to have to really pick, like you're going to have to pick what's most important to you, because the non-negotiables of this is that you're going to work your ass off. You're going to at least attitude and effort are going to be high, and that doesn't fade. That only grows. And you're going to be competitive and you're going to be more than eligible. And I think that that's kind of what gets lost a little bit in coaching is like, let's keep him eligible so he can play. It's like, no, let's make sure that he's getting the degree that he wants for his life, and he's succeeding in that. And then let's get the play, and a lot of that too is like coaches, like you can make offensive schemes easier to understand. Then they don't have to be that complex. Like you can create an environment to have for people to have success. And that's what I've learned through my journey is, like make the hard things are going to be hard. Like what can we make easier for them? That way, once they hit hard, it's like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad. Like that's kind of like, I don't want them to be an aerospace engineer and then me give them 100 O-line tests and then me yelling at them, the professor's yelling at them, the coach is yelling at them, everybody's like tugging them. It's like, no, let's try to make this streamlined. That way, when you do hit those hard times and those hard moments, and, especially even just as a young player or as a transfer, it's like, that comes even just like missing home, and like,
yeah,
for us to
absolutely.
not acknowledge that as coaches is foolish, because
that's what I'm saying about what I'm loving what you're saying is acknowledging these hard things and not just saying, oh, you're being a baby, suck it up, because that doesn't help anything, right? It's because it's easy to do. It's easy to think that you could easily think that looking at some dude that's 6'7", 350 pounds, right? And be like, what's your problem, man? Suck it up, right? But they're still humans and they're still going to go through hard stuff, and acknowledging that I think is huge. And I appreciate that that's how you're operating and how you're coaching. And I don't know much, but I know that I think if you keep that up, I think you're going to have a lot of success with it, Coach.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's really like that. As I was really thinking about this and this time we'd spend together, like I was trying to kind of pick up things that I've learned from the past. And really the last kind of piece that I have is like what I respect a lot about Coach Campbell is, we have meetings with the players, and not just like once a year, not twice a year. I mean, we're talking about like 8, 9 times where we sit down 30 minutes to an hour and we dig into like the true, real, honest questions. And like, if that person is like, I want to be an All-American, I want to play in the NFL, then luckily I've had guys that developed the NFL. I'm like, okay, well, here's the standard and this is where you're living, or we go into everything, diet, supplementation, lifting on Saturdays, find ways to lift on Sundays, like different types of mobilities. We'll go into just the straight up facts of like, you're not playing because of this, and like look someone in the face and tell them that. And sometimes, I even wish I had that a little bit more, even in the real world, working in the oil business, of like those like periodic, like, listen, I know you've thought that you've been doing really good, but you're actually not. And this is why, that's toughness. Like you got to sit there and like listen to someone say that to you face to face. Like, dang, okay, well, at least
you know what though? But it takes, I think that's a version of toughness that a coach has to have, because that's a tough conversation and it's easier to not have that conversation. Right. So I think that's something that coaches need to be like, hey, am I mentally tough enough to have these tough conversations with my players? Because at the end, if the truth is out there, we all benefit from it. We do, right? But it's easier to not have that conversation because a kid might get upset, or you might have a kid transfer, and that that happens, right? But I think that's something coaches need to have, is that they need to be mentally tough too. They need to say, I got to be truthful enough to have these conversations with my athletes, good and bad.
Yeah. And that's something like, if I ever run a business, I'm going to do that with my employees, like I'm just going to sit down more than quarterly and just sit there and have a conversation with them, because it could be a really good conversation, or it could be like, you're so far off. And it's not just the hard part. I think this is the hard part with like coaching, because like a lot of coaches are pretty good at telling kids when they're wrong.
Right. Yes.
They're okay telling them when they're right, and maybe that is like, I want to create toughness, but it's like, well, you still got to make sure the kid knows he's doing a good job. But like, the hard conversation is more of like, this is why you're not getting the results that you want. And like, this is the gap that most people don't fill in between, is like, this is how you get there. And I think that's like the key of being like a true developmental coach of 365.
Yes.
And it's like, you have to give them something to work on. You can't
I mean,
just sit there.
I don't know anything about being an offensive lineman, but I can watch a game film and be like, dude, you got beat right there. I could do that. I could be like, hey, this guy keeps getting by you. Your man keeps sacking our quarterback, but I can't tell you anything how to get better about it, right?
Yeah.
So
no, you're right.
Like you got to know what you're doing and put the time in as a coach to be able to do that.
And that's
stuff.
really like all the offensive linemen nationwide. They're all going to get better at 10 to 15% rate every year because of strength, and that's like a given, right? My job is to get them to 40 to 50% better, and then raise the ceiling. And it's like, if a kid, now the other thing too is like, they have to see progress or they lose trust. And like, if you don't have trust, it's over, so like, the making sure that you're tracking progress, and then also like the self-awareness of like, man, I am making progress. Like I did we were talking nutrition with one of our DBs, and when you're doing like a diet plan or supplementation stuff, adding on with our professionals here, it's tough for like skill positions, because you have to be the margins are so slim, like a percent of body fat to them is huge. For a O line, it's nothing, right? So like, this DB, he ended up, I think he gained like 4 pounds since we talked, and it was like he won the Super Bowl, and I made sure he felt like that, because like,
absolutely,
like 40 pounds, to a bigger body, and he's a very slim person. And so that is like, those little wins in the margins, I think that's like what you have to like make sure they understand, is like, okay, you're doing good, perfect. This and now here's step 2. Like, let's reflect on what you did right. Where were your challenges?
Well, there's your gratitude again. Like even having gratitude on the steps that you cross. Like when you were, gratitude's a huge part of that. So, Coach, it's been a fantastic conversation. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I sure appreciate the wisdom and the ideas that you're sharing.
Yeah,
keep it up, Coach.
Yeah, I'm gonna come on again. We'll talk. We'll go to the next progression.
I love it.
We'll just have a bunch of linemen talking ball.
Absolutely. I love it. I've had a lot of linemen in. I love it. I love the mindset that they have to have, because like you said, they're not worried about the glamour. It's all about the grit, and it's all about the little progresses that they have to have. I love the mindset. If we get a lot of players to have that mindset, we'd be in good shape. So
yeah, no, I agree.
All right, Coach. Thanks for coming on. I sure appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you. Talk to you later.
Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching.
So Coach Clanton there, Ryan Clanton of Iowa State, he's the O-line coach. Just I appreciate him coming on. Great guy. I love his story. Just one of grit and determination, and just a great example of how you have to put the work in. And like, if that's your goal, if you want to get there and you want to do these things, like, you have to put the time in. Like, you have to be the one that's staying late. You have to be putting the extra work in. It just doesn't happen by accident. I guess it does for some if you're incredibly gifted, but we all everybody's getting to the point where that genetic gift isn't enough, and you got to put the extra work in, and he put that in early, and you can see the dividends, because he understands the struggle, and understands the work. I think my favorite part, and I said this on the interview, is what I love about what he does is his acknowledging the difficult situations, acknowledging, he calls hitting the wall, and he does it ahead of time. And it's not an old school idea where we just want to act like nothing's ever going to bother us, and we're really tough and we're never going to struggle and never even think about possibly losing, or never think about how you aren't going to win or you aren't going to get this done. It's impossible. You can't even think like that. But he's acknowledging the fact that there are going to be losses. There are going to be hard days. There are going to be things that are very difficult for you. And then he acknowledges the fact that that's okay, recognizes that it will happen, and says, okay, this will happen. Just go ahead and start working like crazy till it hits. He was talking about this one drill, hit the wall early. Just go as hard as you can, hit the wall early, because it's all about what you do after you hit the wall. It's not about how long it takes you to hit the wall or how you pace yourself. He's just like, just start working and start digging in, working as hard as you can. Figure out what you can and can't do, and then once you hit the wall, figure out, okay, how do we get past that? How do we get better? And I think it's such a mentally healthy idea to acknowledge these valleys that we will have first before you even start, and say, hey, look, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really difficult. We know it's going to be difficult. We design it to be difficult. We want you to fail because it's the failure that is how we springboard forward to the growth. And I was thinking about this today. It was in a Bible study, and we were talking about some stuff, and it wasn't even the point, but I was just sitting there thinking about how we have peaks and valleys, and thinking about the difference between a peak and a valley from a metaphorical standpoint. And a peak, like, we get to the top of the mountain, it's cold, there's snow, there's really, if you're past the tree line, is like there's no growth up there. There's nothing even growing up there. But a valley, which we see as a valley as a low point in our life, but the valley metaphorically is where the growth happens. That's where things are grown. And I just like that metaphor, and thinking about how we have to have those low moments in order to grow, to move forward, because our life is going to be up and down, and that's just the way it is. And I enjoyed how open and honest he was and is with his players about the struggle, and how the struggle is going to happen. The wall is going to happen. And he's talking about the wall being physical, mental, emotional, and how he has to consider all those things for those young men that are coming to him and going through hard times, and just how they have those really honest conversation about what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, how they need to improve. Just is such, and those are hard conversations. If you've ever had to have a conversation like that, it's difficult conversations to have with somebody, and not everybody handles it well. But I think that's again a level of mental toughness that a coach needs to have, is to have those open and honest conversations as often as possible, just because we're acknowledging what needs to get better, what we struggle at, what we're not the best at, but then also in a positive way, saying, here's how we get better. This is what you struggle with. This is the issues we have, but here's how we get better. So it's not about, so when I talk about how good it is for him to be vulnerable and acknowledge that the wall happens, that's not a negative thing. It's a realistic thing. It's saying it is going to be hard. There's going to be struggles. It's going to be difficult, but here's how we move past this. But first we have to figure out where our wall is and what we struggle with. And then once we see, oh, I'm not good at this, or my cardio is not good, my strength isn't enough, my knowledge of the game isn't enough, all these things, whenever you hit these different walls, well, how do we improve? But it's hard to, if you've ever worked with young athletes, especially high school age, stuff like this, these young guys that are very, very good at what they do and genetically gifted, if they've never hit the wall on something, it's hard to teach them anything. It's very difficult for them to want to change anything whenever they just come up roses on everything. So creating these situations where they're going to fail and tell them you're going to fail. And this is the whole point of it. And this is what we want. We want you to fail. We want you to hit the wall. We want things to be difficult so that we can grow. It's a change in mindset. And it's, I think, something that we need to do more of as coach. It's a great idea. And he clearly learned well from not just other coaches, but he talked about having a boss. He worked outside of athletics for a while, which I think is always good. And he had a really good boss that sat him down and was real honest with stuff on how he could get better. And there's a lesson there for coaches that how we coach players, if they end up being bosses or coaches someday, they're going to coach like they were coached. So pay attention to the way you're coaching. Is it really something you want somebody to emulate? And it's some food for thought, and it's some, put the microscope on yourself as a coach, and it's a good idea. So I love the interview. Coach Clanton was fantastic. He's I think I've read some stuff. He's gotten some awards for coaching under 35. He's a young guy. He's going to do well. I love his mindset and the way he connects with his players. He's going to do really well. Be a really good guy. He really gets the idea of what I call mental toughness and forging your mettle, and just how it's a positive thing. It's an acknowledgement of what we're not good at, but then also a positive idea of how we get better at it, and a lot of gratitude. He talked about gratitude, man. The dude just talks about so much of the stuff that I love. Just a great interview. Can't say enough about it. And also, just a reminder, I am in the middle of doing the monthly Mettle Challenge. If you want to join me, each month I look at a new mental health tactic that I'm practicing myself as a mental coach, as a professional coach. I want to practice as many different things as I can that are going to help develop my resilience, forge my mettle. January, I did gratitude, really in-depth practicing gratitude with people. February, I leaned into my faith, a lot of Bible reading, a lot of prayer time. I'm going to continue to do those quite a bit. But then in March, last week, I talked about how I'm doing fasting for fulfillment, and not having fasting be about what I'm giving up, but what I'm gaining. And that's a biblical thing, but it's also a mental health thing, and how it can give you such clarity. I'm doing a lot of I'm doing every day some intermittent fasting, like the 16-8 stuff, taking some things out of my diet, things that can cloud your mental clarity, really trying to do my best with that, and doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of thinking, and just testing, how is my mental clarity? Am I doing well? And I'm enjoying doing that. If you want to join me in the monthly Mettle Challenge, go back, look at some old episodes. And if you want to, shoot me an email, comment on some stuff. I'll reach out to you. I would love to see how I can help, or maybe you can help me get some ideas. I love it. I just, anybody in any way that I can help them develop more mental toughness, forge their mettle, I'm all about it. I want to help. And that's the point of the monthly Mettle Challenge. I'd love it if you join me. And I'd love it even if you don't, that's great. But if you like the stuff that I'm putting out there, I can't thank you enough for listening. And I can't thank you enough for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, just on the YouTube channel and everything. Just if you like what I'm saying, if you like the idea of what I'm putting out there, then share it with somebody. Help me out. I'm trying to move the idea of mental health and athletics, and just mental health and your own resilience being your own personal responsibility, and knowing that you can do something about it. That's what I'm trying to promote, and I'd love your help in doing that. So thanks again for listening. It's been a great episode. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. This has been the Mental Mettle Podcast, and always remember to forge your mettle. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your mettle.